using Christian's computer today. Welcome, Christian. Say hello.
Hello, everybody.
We have yet again failed to come up with a good joke.
I disagree. I had a good one. Anthony didn't like it.
All right, why don't you tell the veto joke?
Oh,
Yeah, I'll go ahead. All right, we have while we wait for another 45 seconds here, we will go and look at this amazing joke.
So in honor of the autonomous ship that just sailed and where Pollen was born from, I thought this was a good one. So if April showers bring May flowers, what do May flowers bring?
Really good. Amazing. Hey. All right, let's get started. Thank you for the amazing meeting or joke. All right, in the room with us, we have Oscar, Mike, Sri, Victoria, Christian, and myself, Anthony. On the agenda today, we want to talk about the issues. We've had 3 issues since we last talked. We want to kind of do a little deeper dive on all 3 of those. We'll be putting out a written post-mortem on one of these. The other 2 were just configuration problems. So we have a elderflower problem. We have a no rewards for hummingbirds and honeybees. And then we had one day where only a third-ish of the flowers were able to get rewards due to, and there's 3 separate issues, but we'll get there. All right, the second topic is anti-gaming and kind of updates that we're doing there. Thirds, we're thinking about rewarding density so that we can create more contiguous coverage, be it in San Francisco or other areas where there's a nexus of pollen drops, a nexus of pollen flowers to be able to start improving on having a continuous network. Christian's going to talk about our drop coming up, and then I'll describe the bumblebees that arrive this Thursday, and we should be able to ship Friday. We do need to do a little testing on them, so maybe Monday shipment. So with that, we'll start with our issues. First one, I'm going to tap on folks to help me clear out here, is the elderflower not working properly for some users that recently received them. There's 2 firmwares on the units that went out. One of them had the standard by cell firmware, which was blocking the GPS and therefore was not able to come online. And the other one had an older firmware version that was using GPS, but then was causing a restart every 10 minutes, hence being trash. We're in communication with Bicels. We have a workaround now, but we're waiting for a new firmware release from them to be able to update them and make that. But as of today, or when did this fix go in? Like meaning the elderflowers being able to earn the way they should. Couple more, 2 more days.
Sorry, we're back. Technical issue.
Are we back? I don't think so. Are we talking to them? See the next video. All right, we're back. Okay, so can you repeat what you just said, Oscar? Sorry, come closer to the microphone so everybody can hear you.
We are waiting on biases. Working.
Yeah, so for that, we'll need them to have them be plugged in so we can update them remotely as well. But this morning you mentioned that there was a interim fix. Are you? So you want to apply the firmware patch first? Okay, all right, never mind. We have 2 fixes, but there's a clean one and there's a dirty one, and we're going to try the clean one first. All right, awesome. All right, so the next one is the honeybee and the hummingbirds not getting rewards. So we reached a scaling limit on one of our magma core instances, and that caused the instance to report incomplete data. And that resulted in issues with the rewards where certain e-stems and flowers didn't receive rewards for all of their attaches. Bumblebees, because of the way they report data, were not and are not impacted. So what are we doing with that? We're migrating all the flowers to a new orchestrator instance, and the affected flowers from the are only from the founders and the early emerging spot. And so that will happen in the next 3 to 4 days, and this will be something where the flowers will also need to be remaining online as they switch from one orchestrator to the next. But until then, there will be the continuing problem of not earning the rewards.
There's post, there's affected flowers. You know,
Yeah, we should definitely post a list of affected flowers so they know who is affected. Do we have the list yet or no? Okay, let's pull it up and then post that in the Discord after the meeting is over then. Great. Right now, we're targeting 3 a.m. Pacific time for everybody to have their affected flowers be online and be moved over on Thursday. Sorry, Thursday, 3 a.m. Pacific. Okay, so last time I forgot to take questions that were sent in chat instead of people coming on the voice, and I apologize for that. We will make sure that we take them then. Are there any? Oh, so the third issue we had was there was one day where there was only about a third of the units reporting, and we fixed that problem. That was also another magma issue.
Yeah, the 1 day.
The 1 day.
Yeah, so that was the same issue. Basically, the issue that we had was the same thing. We were hitting the scaling limit and we were getting incorrect data. We recognized it on that day and prevented a complete send of the wrong reward, but we didn't prevent some of the rewards from being sent improperly. We reissued the awards for that day. So everyone should have received a full payment that is reflective of the right rewards information. But we're still working through the scaling issue on that core instance. And that is the root cause of both of those problems.
Looks like we might be having an audio issue for a couple people. I'm gonna ask everybody to come, hover over the laptop like I am right now so they can hear more clearly. Okay, so that's the issues. If there's any questions, you can send chat or you can raise your hand now. We'll move on to the next topic on the anti-gaming. We continue to take that very seriously because we think that's one of the key aspects that will cause, the network to be less trusted the more there is fraud and gaming. And we think that it's kind of, we don't want to pawn that onto somebody else. We want to do as much as we can to minimize the gaming that's going on. We're going to try a new microphone here, live swap, and see what happens. All right. So Sri, do you want to give us a little update on some of the different types of the gaming that we're doing in terms of the overlaps and GPS maps and drifts and
Yeah, so we have a dedicated gaming czar, if you will, anti-gaming czar. So we have one person who's dedicated to looking at all of the data that we're producing for anti-gaming. The data that we're producing now, we are basically looking into signal strength versus distance plots. We're looking into map views of that signal strength versus distance. So that those plots we expect to give us a lot more information on if bumblebees are reporting incorrectly or spoofing. We are also doing checks on the flowers to see if they're moving. And I think we're going to reintroduce the uptime check pretty soon as well. So those checks will have to do with the flowers, making sure they're not moving, making sure they're in their reported locations and not drifting around. And then we also have checks to make sure that the bumblebee information that we're receiving is corroborated by the core information that we receive from Magma. Those are two different data streams. So there's data coming from your bumblebee directly to us, and then there's also data coming from the core. And cross-referencing those two data streams just increases our trustability of the device. And so it gives us a better picture of whether the device is reporting accurately and reporting with respect to the real truth that it sees. So all of those fixes are they're implemented and they're being slowly moved in piece by piece, along with the data streams for those things, so that people can start looking at those maps and understanding the gaming or not gaming aspects, I guess.
Yeah, and so our anti-gaming person is gonna be posting, possible candidates that we think are cheating, and then we want to let the community vote or determine input as to whether we think that, we identified somebody correctly or not. And then we think there's two levels. There's a rewards not being given because the GPS was drifting or incorrect in the location. Separately, we'll let the community actually ban someone, and we also understand that the list of banned hardware needs to be listed live so that people, when they're selling or trading amongst each other, can see if they're purchasing a banned hardware or not. So that's that. We have a question. So will we get rewarded? Will we get rewards backdated for HBs and HMBs since we are not getting them currently? Yes, that's a very good question. Unfortunately, we think the answer to that is no. We've had an instance where we gave out too many PCN before, and we were told that was that's how Web3 works. And so we understand that there's a problem with that, and it's not good, but there's no good way to give extra rewards while keeping the community fair. So we understand that there's a problem and we're working on fixing it, but there's no way to, we don't want to create a precedent where every time there's a problem of some sort, that there's a way to fix it. And so we're choosing, I think just like this happened previously on some other issue, I forget what it was exactly. We also chose not to do it, and so we will choose not to do it again this time.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, the rewards are computed every day and are relative to all the other rewards that computed on that day. So going back and basically back tracing how much PCN would be earned is really hard because it would basically change the distributions for everyone else as well. So we think that is not the right way to do it.
You're talking about like withholding from the people that got too much, a proportionate amount to then give back to the people that didn't get enough. Yeah, I agree with that.
Right. And
We might also change hands.
And exactly. So, and we realize that there's a way that we could do that with wallet addresses or devices, but we think that's easily gameable as well. I think there's easy ways to avoid those kinds of penalties or those kinds of withholding strategies. And so we don't see that as a viable way to actually balance out the rewards in a back trace manner. So I think it's best if we move forward, but make sure that we are very transparent and very clear on what's earning and what's not earning. And we are trying to be as transparent as possible with the ledger. I know the ledger has been on and off, like updated, not updated, but I've been trying my best to update it manually every day, make sure everything is there. The ledger has been manually updated because that's another scaling limitation that we've been hitting, which is Google Sheets doesn't allow us to push a lot of data to each sheet, so I have to create a new sheet manually every time. Again, I realize these are all kind of nitpicky annoyances, but there are strategic things that we're doing to address all of these issues. Namely, we're building out a database and API system so that anyone from the public community can access the rewards and get that information through the API. And we think that that will also help us scale other factors of our architecture or like technology.
Since you're talking about API and Explore, do you want to touch a little bit more on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you guys know, the Explorer has been down for the last couple of days. That's also been like a major scaling issue that we're trying to tackle, but we're a little behind on that. So, realistically, there's two avenues to solve the issue. One is to um, keep fixing or keep trying to improve the broken architecture that we have already. And I don't see that as something that's sustainable or something that can grow and scale with how fast we're moving. So we are migrating to a new wholesale new app that's built in a more optimized fashion and that has um, much more concern with respect to how much data is coming through and making it more user friendly and speed optimized and all those kinds of things. And so, unfortunately, that means that the Explorer is probably not going to be back up for another week or so. But the idea is once we do move to this new Explorer, you guys should see a huge improvement in terms of usability, in terms of being able to do new things while also doing all the other tracking and monitoring that you guys used to do. And that'll come hand in hand with the API that we're building. So, the API will be showcased by the Explorer, but then you can also use the API to build your own Explorer type apps. That's kind of the future of what we're looking for. We foresee that being deployed in the next, not the coming week, but the week after. Yeah, bear with us. Please be patient on the Explorer. I understand that it's a tough to understand and to track your reward. I think the best way going forward without the Explorer, it would be the Ledger again, and we do plan on keeping the Ledger as up to date as possible. So, yeah, that's really the update on the Explorer. We're working as hard as we can, as fast as possible to make that a reality again.
What's holding us back from having the ledger being accurate and up to date every day?
So right now, the problem has been that the ledger is up to date and accurate. It's just that sometimes it fails to upload to Google Sheets because of size issues. Basically, it's just like hitting a size limit on the Google Sheet.
Can you just do a CSV and then push it available that way?
I should be able to. I have to figure out a better method to do it, but I will look into that.
Let's just do like a vote, use a Google Sheet so you can see it manually and then give a CSV so people can read that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. Regardless, I think the important part is the ledger needs to be updated, especially now because the Explorer is down. We realize that, and we will make sure that the ledger is updated every day.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, next up, we're gonna talk about rewarding density. So we think, so we had it where not every hex, so we had the possibility where hexes could have different values, or now they're all set to the same. We think that there might be a way to reward density where contiguous coverage can be rewarded in an additional manner in order to foster the ubiquitous coverage in certain areas as opposed to having one flower every 20 miles away from each other. We welcome unsolicited feedback on this. That would be really good. Our thinking has been to allow rewards from neighboring hexes that touch your hexes to flow to some portion back into your rewards on there. So if your neighbor is covering your hexes neighboring yours, you should be able to get some extra coverage from that. We have some ideas on our side, but we thought that we'd let you think about that for a minute. We'll skip the drop. We'll talk about we have a new app version coming. Do you know, Victoria, do you know which version of the app everybody's on? They're on 14 still, right? They're not on 16 and they're not on 1.11. Okay, so they're staying onto the 14. Okay. So we submitted one to the App Store. We're still waiting from our friendly Apple representative to approve our app for general distribution. We're very excited with what's coming out of that. There's a bunch of new features in that that will be pretty game changing. Could be fun oriented. Can I talk about bumblebees? We got our shipment on So we're supposed to get our shipment Thursday. And therefore hoping to ship Friday out after doing a little assembly and testing. It could be that we are doing testing over the weekend as well, and so they might go up Monday. Changes in the new Bumblebee are the modem is powered from an external battery versus a super cap, which means that it can turn on in parallel from the OS, which means it should boot faster. There's some reliability where the SIM is now in a chip form factor. And that means that we can upload and update the software of the SIM over the air. We will be moving to our own PLMN number network, which is 314-280 over time. And so that will be done over the air for those that can, and for those that cannot, we will issue a physical SIM, but that's quite a ways from now, several weeks. What's this? Arrow, do you have on the whiteboard? Do you want to talk about that? Because I don't know.
Yeah, so we sent out an email to folks who were impacted by the BB delay issue, and essentially we're offering you 25% off your next purchase of a bee or a bird. So any bumblebees, any hummingbirds, or any honeybees. You all should have received the email. If you didn't, check your spam or DM one of us or check support or email support. But we'll be distributing these codes in advance of an upcoming drop. And yeah, 25% off bee or bird coming soon.
Hi, Christian, you're up.
So we've got a couple distinct drops coming up this week. So the Consensus Conference in Austin kicks off on Thursday. So we're going to have representatives there, pollen representatives. There's also going to be a CalChip team there. We're going to have a dedicated drop for attendees. And if you find one of the team members, if you're there, there will be a discount on orders from that drop. We're also going to have a Where's Waldo of sorts. A team member from Pollen is going to be wearing a purple and white striped rugby shirt, as well as some other accoutrement. And if you find him, there's going to be an additional discount available. At the same time, we're also going to make another drop available for the broader community, public drop via CalChip that's going to go live on Friday at noon Pacific time. That'll be another drop of elderflowers, and that'll come in a bundle with honeybees. So excited about that. If anybody's going to be at Consensus and wants to make sure you meet up with the team, feel free to reach out to one of us, and we'll make sure to find a time to meet up.
Awesome. We're going to open up the questions.
We will not have units at the events, unfortunately.
All right. Let's open up for questions by voice and by text. Let's do text ones first. If there's any, people skip on them.
There's a question about the honeybee app, whatever worked on iOS about how they could have the app open. What can we do?
Yeah, question. I'll repeat because we have a microphone possible question. So will the honeybee app work in the background where you don't have to have it open? I think the answer is yes, but it is not something that we're doing now. Our friends at Tim Horton seem to be able to do that in Canada. So as long as we give the proper disclosures, it feels like that's something we can figure out as well. It's a joke. It's a joke. Maybe that could have been my not mid, but end of meeting joke. Xenophon. Mr. Greek, you're on the stage. All right, I don't think we can hear you. Maybe you have a microphone problem. It looks like you toggled mute. Yeah, close. Okay, any other written questions? You want to send us a written question? I think it's them because I could hear, okay, Colton is coming up. We'll leave you on Xenophon so you can jump in if there's, you get your technical issues figured out. Not sure.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, real quick question. Can we, well, the Explorer's down, can we have a time that we say the ledger is up by for that week? Just because it becomes super important to have the ledger.
So
Well,
the
it's
ledger updates automatically as soon as all the transactions go through. As soon as all the transactions go through, if the ledger doesn't update automatically, I have to go in and manually update it. So, I will definitely check it every day and make sure that it's updating, but I can't guarantee a time because I can't guarantee when the transactions will finish.
Well, can you post on which ones they should be, even if the transactions don't go through? Right, so the ledger could be
Yes,
post after
but
they
that's,
send and they
that's
could be
not as
through.
much help because that doesn't tell you what the transactions actually are for the one you received. Right, so we can update the ledger after the transactions are through, a second time, right? But like, if you wanna know what transaction you got for what set of rewards activities, that doesn't happen until all the transactions get sent and are validated, right? The transactions have to be sent, and then they get checked whether or not they actually got sent. And then that becomes the status that we put into
Yeah.
the ledger.
I think that even just like using the announcement channel more to say, hey, like the ledger has to be updated manually. It's 5 p.m. It'll get up at 8 p.m. You know, just so that we don't have to keep checking it and not having an idea.
Let's see, so there's some excited community members are refreshing every 10 seconds, and let's save them some time where they're waiting for,
Yeah, I mean, I think we can definitely shoot a notification on announcements that says, hey, the ledger is updated.
I think
Yeah, that would
for
be
sure.
Yeah, definitely we can do that.
awesome. Thank you.
Is there a Slack-bot integration on Discord, like?
There is, we just have to, I haven't done it before, but it probably works.
All right, so question in writing, just wanted to confirm if the Friday drop was elderflower plus bumblebee. It sounded like it was, elderflower plus sim, maybe I misheard.
That's correct. It'll be a honeybee sim bundled with the elderflower. We're gonna get bumblebees up for sale again as soon as possible. As soon as we get the back order cleared and additional bees.
Yeah, we wanna make sure we ship to the people that order first and give them a little, break, where they're ahead of the people that just, order them, I guess, so, yeah. All right, that was a good question there. I need to figure out how to get back to the. I'm 100 years old and I can't get out to the, I'm in my chat and I don't know what it is to do. Any other questions? No? All right, going once. Going twice. Oh, snap, there's two questions. Okay, no, sorry, MLab, okay. Okay. All right, MLab,
Hello.
how's it
Hi.
going?
Hey, how's it going? Um, all right, nice to talk to you again. I wanted to ask about what you were mentioning earlier about like different flowers being in the same hex, uh, and rewards bleeding into each other. I just didn't really understand that, and I was hoping if you could elaborate a bit on that. And I think you did mention it's like just a kind of preliminary mention, maybe at the end.
Yeah.
So I was trying to bring that up.
Yeah, we're sharing kind of our thoughts here to folks that join the community meeting of what we think we're going to propose to get your early response. So our thinking is to create better contiguous coverage. Excuse me. We want to have adjacent coverage be rewarded more if they touch than if they don't touch. So imagine that you and I are neighbors. We have we're in 3 hexes. You're in hex 1, I'm in hex 3, there's hex 2 in between. You cover that one, I cover hex 3, and you cover hex 1 and 2. You would get a little bit extra benefit from me covering hex 3 that touches your 2, and I would get a little bit more benefit from your 2 being covered, even though it touches my 3. And we're trying to think exactly what the right function is for doing that, so that you can create clusters of contiguous coverage. And we think that would be the best way to incentivize having contiguous connectivity. And this is different than, for instance, having 4 flowers in 1 hex. We have 1 dandelion going north, 1 east, 1 west, 1 south. And in doing so, you're covering in different directions. This would be the equivalent of that happening at the edge of the coverage that you're providing from that, so that you could go from one to the next and be able to have a continuous attach on that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds like a great problem to solve too. So I agree with that motion.
Yeah.
So
Okay, good. We need to figure out how we'll do that exactly, but if folks are objecting to that idea, I think we can get the feedback, not just now, but over time as it comes in.
all right,
Cool.
great. Improvement proposal or something. So,
Yeah, that'd be
okay,
awesome to put it in.
great.
Okay,
Thank
thank you, MLab. All right. Fisher.
Hi,
Yeah,
how's it going, man? Yeah, I was actually just asking. I'm just kind of curious in terms of the app and the app development. Are you guys going to be planning on open sourcing that at all, just to allow community developers, et cetera, to help with different parts with the honeybee, et cetera?
Yeah, that would be really cool to do that. We're not at that point right now. We might do that for the Android app because that might be a good starting point on that. Right now, the iOS app is in Swift. We're thinking of doing the Android app in React Native, which is what React is going to be the new Explorer. So there'll be a lot of support over there. That could
Gotcha.
be a great way. We haven't made a decision yet, but that's good to hear that there's interest.
Yeah,
Curiosity.
I mean, yeah, I was just curious because I've been doing the DY full time, but I'm a ex senior React Native developer, so I just
Oh.
I've got free time, and I was like, I wanted to improve my own, and I wasn't sure if it was made in React Native or if it was in iOS or Swift. So I was just
that's
just
good.
curious.
Well, let's have a sidebar after this and chat and figure out how to get you what you need to be able to start there. Yeah.
Cool, man.
Cool.
I
That's
just-
awesome.
I think the API is going to be a huge unlock for all you guys to do these kinds of app development activities. Obviously, we should discuss your involvement and like how you want to get involved with what we're doing and be more specific about that. But on the whole, in general, we expect the API to jumpstart those kinds of activities, because then you will have a clear access point for all the data, and you can do whatever you want with it in the future.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I just, I was thinking of it just because I know that there was an issue, just certain issues with like the Explorer and stuff, like obviously in the last couple weeks. So, I just wanted to see if there was a way to at least create a tool for, others so that we can get on it and access that information on our own.
Right.
Cool. I appreciate
right.
it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Any written questions?
Hello.
How's it
Hey,
going?
sorry I couldn't raise my hand. It didn't give me an option. Hope that's all right.
How dare you? No, I'm glad you came up.
Yeah. So sorry. Yeah. First off, thanks for hosting this, and thanks for everything you guys are doing. Love where the project's going. I had 2 questions. One is regarding the Explorer down and the Ledger. Are we going to have the 531 and 6.1 data up anytime soon? And then during this next week or so while it's down, I'm really looking forward to the new Explorer. Are we going to be having the ledger updated daily?
Great question, go ahead. Yes, the ledger will be updated daily, and yes, I will look into any days that are missing. You guys have mentioned 531 and 6/1, so I will definitely take a look at those and make sure they're not missing. But yeah, we plan on making daily updates, comprehensive daily updates to the ledger every day moving forward, especially until the Explorer comes back online.
Cool, sounds good. And then my second question was around the overpayments to those wallets. I understand why you might not want to set a precedent in sort of giving out coins for that incident, but a lot of us had reduced rewards, some significantly due to those overpayments, since they took a cut from the rest of the PCNs that were earned. Is there any way you would consider dipping into any of the other pools or even the incentive pool itself to, get back those coins that are missing from all the people who did proper validations that day?
Yeah, so let me clarify real quick on exactly the timeline of events, right? So the timeline of events was on 5/31. We sent out a set of payments that were incorrect, and we do acknowledge that those payments were incorrect, right? So all the people who received payments on 5/31, all of them received incorrect payments. The thing that we did do, right, is we went back and recalculated using all of the data that we had for 531, the real amounts, right? The actual valid amounts. And those were added to the uh, back pay backlog, if you will, on 6/1. So on 6/1, a lot of people should have received rewards for, or sorry, on 6/2, excuse me, a lot of people should have received rewards for 6/1, but then they also should have received their back pay payment from 5/31. So all in all, what that means is you guys should have received the right amounts for that day. Some wallets may have received a double payment, which was one incorrect payment and one correct payment, but no one should have received a lack of payment from their activity on that day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks so much for the explanation. I think a lot of us were just assuming we had lowered rewards due to those incidents. So, yeah, thanks for explaining that. And I actually noticed that myself because it didn't match up with the Explorer data. But I assumed that was just Explorer issues. So yeah, thanks for the explanation on that.
Yeah, and so I think there's like a couple of things that we're running into that that are also causing reduced rewards, and that was one of the things that Anthony mentioned as well, which is we are still hitting up on one of the orchestrators hitting that resource limitation, right? So we are working on that part, and that might cause a reduction in your expected rewards earnings, but that is not due to it's not due to like data loss, or it's not due to like a situation where we're not seeing anything happening, or the core is not responding at all. So those were the issues that we were facing on that one day where we did do the incorrect payments. But both of these factors are tied together with the fact that we are hitting this resource limitation on our Magma core instance. And so we see the only mitigation strategy for this being a wholesale migration to a new instance because of the nature of the problems we were running into. And so I think we explained this before, but we are working through that right now actively, and we hope to have that fixed by the end of this week.
Cool, thanks. And then for us non-tech people, can you give us a little explain like M5, like why Magma's not working and why you're switching that?
Yeah, so Magma is like a distributed core service, and it has a limitation on how many AGWs it can support. Basically, what we found was it's a soft cap, but the cap can affect different services within the different services within the overall architecture of Magma, right? So we thought we weren't going to hit that cap with the amount of AGWs we had because of the testing that we did. But what we found was other services that we didn't expect to go down ended up going down because of that resource cap that we hit. And that led to situations where certain AGWs couldn't communicate with the core and that would result in them being unable to report their attach information in the right amount of time, right? So basically, instead of them streaming real time what their attach information was, the resource limitations was preventing and slowing down that stream of data. So we were still getting all the attach information and we were still collecting it, but it wasn't collecting in a fast enough time to process the rewards and hand out the right distribution of rewards for everyone. So it's not a data loss problem. It's more of a resource limitation problem, and we're solving that by spinning up a larger orchestrator with more resources, and also spinning up more orchestrators so that we don't hit that cap of the number of AGWs that are going on to each order.
It's not that we're going off of the magma, it's that we are sharding magma into being split across multiple different instances than we had planned.
Yeah.
And it can't handle as many as we originally thought for a server on the back end.
Cool. Thanks so much for that explanation. And then on that note, do you plan on using Solana, forever? Just due to the current Solana issues and their propensity to crash. Any thoughts on, switching to another network or just sticking with Solana and hoping they figure things out?
Well, we thought that by sticking to Solana, we would look really good next to them. But sorry, that was a bad joke. No, I think that's we tried Ethereum, we tried Polygon, we tried Solana, and that was the best of those. We looked at Avalanche and a couple others. I think we've designed our system so that we could be portable and move to a different chain when we want to. Although we don't think that's quite necessary now, but definitely open to doing that in the future.
Yeah, and I'll comment on that a little bit. So there are certain strategies that we're taking that are going to mitigate the number of transactions going out every day. And I think that's a much more viable long-term strategy for us going forward. I think considering all of the pros and cons of other chains, Solana is still the best chain for us to operate on as in the current scenario, and considering the current types of things that we're trying to do. I think investing in a layer one chain by ourselves is kind of foolhardy, and we think of that as being a little too much. It's too much work for us, while also not providing the benefits of like the added flexibility and the added basically it's adding too much complexity is what it comes down to. And Solana still has the fastest throughput in terms of transactions out of all the blockchains that we're looking at. And we do acknowledge that it's going down, but I think part of the reason why it's going down is because there's so many people that are hitting it. And so it is partly a scaling problem. And I think that's something that the Solana team has to address. But we trust that Solana has a good trajectory and will continue to improve. That doesn't mean we're completely ruling out moving to another chain, as Anthony said. But I think going forward, there's more optimizations that we could do that allow for a better user experience, and that is not predicated on Solana crashing or not crashing. And so I think we're going to move forward with those experience changes and those improvements, and hopefully that'll be a good measure in order to protect ourselves against these kinds of stoppages, one-time stoppages that we saw, last week or a couple months ago. And on the flip side, I think that we'll also introduce more capabilities for people to have the ability to like cash out. And I think that'll be a huge thing too, is instead of sending transactions every day to every user, if you can keep a kind of like a escrow wallet, if you will, of amounts that you have, and then someone can say, hey, I want to cash out, and that gets transferred to your real wallet. I think that's another viable strategy that would really allow us to scale to much larger numbers in terms of users, while still being able to use the infrastructure that we have and build out more capability on Solana itself.
Yeah, awesome. That sounds great. Thanks so much. I think that's all I have.
There's another question. What's the question? The 23-hour daily uptime requirement was mentioned as coming back soon. Will there be an announcement in Discord before it is re-implemented, activated?
Yes, absolutely. So I think that's something that we need to work on a little bit more, but we will definitely have more of a formal cadence where we announce specific rewards, things that are happening. We've been trying to, publicize them on these meetings, and I think that's a good start, but I think we also need to accompany that with some formal announcing. So going forward, anytime the rewards function or the rewards software gets changed or improved, we will definitely send out a notification on Discord and hopefully accompany it with a blog post that also kind of explains, what the changes are. If they're minor changes, you might not be getting a blog post, but if it's a big change or if there's, changes in the rewards functionality, then we will definitely announce that with a blog post going forward.
It sounds like some change like that, we should also have potentially a period where you could have people see what their earnings rewards would be after the change. So that, before the change takes effect. So you could understand like, why is my flower not earning after you change, and you realize, oh, you're rebooting it at 6 a.m. when your sprinklers go off. And whatever, something else happens.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think that'll require a little bit more infrastructure work on our end, but I think it's doable, and I think it's something that we can definitely explore going forward.
Awesome. ML Lab.
I was just going to ask further about that. Is that architecture and process kind of already designed and like like uh fleshed out on your end? Like is that already determined? Is there room for change? Or so I'm just kind of wondering about that itself. And is there more detail as far as how that would work exactly? Like this, confirming maybe your identity to fetch your rewards from whatever cash out interface you're describing. I'm a little curious about how solidified is this already?
Yeah, so we're in the process of making it. I won't call it solidified because we're currently actively developing it, so it'll take some time for us to solidify it. We do have a plan. We have a clear action plan on how we're going to make this happen, and we have a rough idea of the infrastructure and technologies that we're going to use. There's a bit of testing that we're going to do to make sure that the technologies that we're using are working the way we intend, and to make sure that it's not going to hit any further resource limitations or scaling limitations in the near term. So those are tests that we have to actually perform and make sure that everything works on that end. But we do have a plan for that, and we have a plan for implementing all of this to be a public-facing API that allows you to hit, any of the rewards data based on the queries that you make. It's going to be completely public, similar to the ledger. You're going to be able to access it based on your wallet address, based on your device names. So similar to how you're searching on the Explorer, you're going to be able to query the API and get that data programmatically. And I think once those pieces are in play, that'll allow for a lot more flexibility and growth on the types of reporting that you guys want to see. But that is the plan. That is the main. That is going to be the main architectural method for us to kind of propagate this data and make it available while also improving the latency and experience on our apps as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm assuming this is basically Web 2 infrastructure that this implementation will be carried out on, right? And I'm
Yes, that
kind
is correct. For now, it'll be Web 2 infrastructure. That is true.
of okay. Yeah, I guess the only uh thing I'd probably throw my 2 cents in for is just in regards to security. I could see this being not only a bottleneck for throughput, but also just an a security vector for people to actually be able to access each other's funds or whatnot. So that's actually one of the things that made me immediately bring this up.
Yeah, so I mean that's a good question. Honestly, security wise, right now, you can see all of the transactions that happen on our network, and you can see every actor not as a person but as a wallet, and that will remain the same, right? So you will still be able to see all the activity of a wallet, through the API. The security really comes from the fact that you can't associate what wallet is acting with what person is acting, right? And I think that'll remain the same going forward. So in terms of like the public nature of the information, it's not going to be any different from what you see on the ledger. And the ledger is already providing that level of granularity. So I don't foresee that being an issue. I also don't foresee allowing the API to change the database, right? It's going to be read only. So there's not going to be a vector for people to attack the rewards information because that's going to be distanced by a layer of abstraction there. So yeah, so I think we are considering security, but I don't think it's going to change much from the types of data that you already get from the Explorer from the ledger.
Okay. Thank you. I guess we could probably chat more as that comes along. I'm sure the community will probably have various forms of feedback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Thank
any
you.
other questions? All right, going once.
There was another question on the
Right.
what service are you updating the Explorer to? So right now we're hosting it. It's a Python app that's being hosted on AWS. I think in the future it'll be it'll be either React or JavaScript, and it'll be more client side focused. And so the data crunching and all of the rendering right now happens on the server side. That's one of the reasons why the app is so slow. It was written like that because of time and just kind of putting something out there that works. We're moving towards a more optimized and more efficient framework in React, and we think that'll really improve the user experience and also the speed and usability of the app itself. So another question that we had, are we seeing the 70-30 rewards consistently hitting the ceiling by bees these days? And if so, how much are they going over by? This is a really good question. We are seeing that the flowers are falling below the 70% threshold over the past week. The past week is when the ceiling was, or the cap was introduced. So we are seeing that the flowers are hitting the cap. We are waiting on doing any kind of tokenomics type changes because there's a lot of devices that are still going out and that need to be kind of brought up and validated. And we think that with the number of devices that are going to go out, with the number of bumblebees that still have to go out, we think that the numbers will eventually even out and result in the same type of splits that we were seeing before. So we're waiting on making any drastic changes to the tokenomics itself, but the caps are in place and the caps are being hit. In terms of how much the caps are being hit by, I have to do a little bit more research and get that information, but in the ledger, there will be a new column that is called the RSE ratio. And so you will be able to tell what the amount was by looking at that ratio. And I'll explain that. It stands for I'm forgetting now, like reward share, something. But basically it's the metric that adjusts the number of picks that you get such that all the flowers receive 70% of the picks and all the bumblebees receive 30, or all the other validation devices.
The scale factor.
Yeah, that's a scale factor. What's up? The RSE ratio. I have the acronym somewhere in my head. I'll do that.
Sri invented an acronym and then he forgot what it was. Amazing. That's the best way to do that. Okay. Are we good? More questions? Going once. And we know, we apologize for the audio. We have a better mic. We just didn't plug it in. This computer was dropped earlier this week. Clearly the mic was a casualty. And we all have masks on because of COVID precautions. So we'll be better. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. Talk soon.